Hi, this is Mindy, and in this tutorial we're going to be using DrJava's Interactions pane to see how Java handles numbers and mathematical operations. If you right-click in your Interactions pane, you'll see that you can print out your interactions. You can save them, bring them up later. You can also clear it, reset it down here. We're going to use it to look at how Java handles numbers. First, we'll talk about ints or integers. These are whole numbers with no decimals to them. They range in size from 2 billion and change to negative 2 billion and change. Another primitive data type that we're going to talk about are doubles. These numbers have decimal portions to them, and they range in size from negative 1.79 e to the 308th to as large as 1.79 e to the 308th. In Java, you cannot use any kind of comma in your numbers. The compiler will give you an error message. So no commas, no spaces in your numbers to keep the compiler happy. Java's got most of the normal mathematical operators you'd expect: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and this last one that looks like a percentage sign is actually the modulus operator or the remainder operator. You'll notice the missing operator is an exponent. There's no explicit use of a caret top to get exponents, but Java does have a math class that's got methods in it you can use. Java does evaluate mathematical expressions just like you learned in algebra class. So it would start with the innermost parentheses and move from left to right, looking for multiplication, division, and the modulus operator. Then it would go back through, moving from left to right again, adding and subtracting. And I recommend using lots of parentheses just so that you can come up with the same answer that the compiler does and not have errors introduced into your program because your orders of operation is not correct. So an equation like this that's a little hairy to evaluate is much easier if you've got parentheses. It's easier to see what's going on and get the answer that you expect. Now, one sticky point in Java is that you must use the multiplication operator explicitly in your equations. So if you had an equation like 3 minus 2 inside parentheses times 8, the compiler accepts that. If you have this same equation without the multiplication sign in there, the compiler will not accept that. So you do have to keep that in mind so you don't get any bugs in your programs. And so far we've been looking at integers in equations, and now we're going to talk about integer division. And integer division would answer the question why 11 divided by 4 equals 2. So you have to think back to when you were learning how to divide, and you only had integers to use for answers. So you would have divided 11 by 4 and gotten an answer of 2. And your remainder would have been 3. So to get that remainder, you'd use your mod operator. 11 mod 4 is 3. So when you're doing this integer division, you have to be very careful that you get the answer that you expect. Your integer division answer has to be an integer. There will be no fractions, no decimals, and the answer will be rounded down to the closest integer. So something like 2 divided by 4 would give you integer division answer of 0, and your remainder would be 2 mod 4 with a remainder of 2. So remember that the modulus or remainder operator is after integer division, and it will give you the integer remainder. So be careful with things like negative 10 mod 3 gives you a negative 1 remainder versus something like 10 mod negative 3 would give you a remainder of just 1. Negative 10 mod negative 3, and again your remainder would be negative 1. So you have to think about this, because it's not that you don't know how to do it, it's not that it's hard to do, but it's just one of those little things that slips by you sometimes when you're not paying attention. I think the trickiest mod operator problems involve things like negative numbers that are smaller than the number they're being divided by. Because the remainder, the int division gives you an answer of 0, and then you've got the remainder to handle. So just be careful you don't introduce bugs into your programs using the int division and the mod operator. So far we've looked at integers, and obviously integers in an equation give you an integer answer. If you use doubles in an equation, then your answer is going to be a double. Java hangs on to the significant digits that you've given it. But what happens when you mix an integer and a double in the same equation? Well, Java again assumes that you want to hang on to the significant digits, and it will give you an answer that's a double. So make sure you remember that, and that's another place that you could get a bug in your program because you've forgotten about what's going to happen with your integer and doubles in the same equation. So we've looked at using your Interactions pane on Dr.Java for testing your code. We look at integer data types, ints. We've looked at doubles. We looked at the use of the explicit multiplication sign, integer division that gives you an integer answer. We looked at the mod operator, modulus operator that gives you the remainder after integer division. We looked at mixing integers and doubles together and how you get a double for an answer. So hopefully this all made sense. If you do have any questions, drop me a comment or an email and I will get you an answer. Thanks for stopping in and hope to see you again.